Welcome to the webinar about promotion of gender equality within the EURAXESS initiative and the EQUAL-IST project. I hope that you all can hear me well and can also see the slide that I'm sharing. Thanks also to Pambis who helped to set up this webinar, and yeah, so hopefully we will have no technical issues today. So before we start, I wanted to give just a very short background about this webinar and its goals. So this webinar is part of a set of initiatives on establishing synergies between the EQUAL-IST project and the EURAXESS initiative and network. And this is already the second webinar. The first webinar took place back in November 2016. And back then we focused more on introducing us to each other. And today we will focus on promotion of gender equality at both EURAXESS and EQUAL-IST. And the goal is to exchange experience and report on results of the implemented activities. I will also switch on my camera, so I hope you now can also see me. So my name is Elena Gorbacheva, and I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the Department of Information Systems at the University of Münster, and I am involved in the EQUAL-IST project. So basically, I'm leading this project from the University of Münster side. I have two organizational aspects before we start. So first one, unless you would like to say something, please keep your microphone muted. So you have there the microphone symbol, so please ensure that it's red unless you want to say something. And second point, we will have today three presentations, and we will have short question and answer sessions after each presentation. The easiest way would be if you post your questions. You are very welcome to post questions to the speakers using the chat window. So you will see the chat pictogram in GoToMeeting. So just click there and then you will see the chat field, and then you can type your question, and I will try to moderate the whole webinar today and will read your questions out loud. So I hope you'll agree to proceed like that. As the webinar is targeted at both the members of the EURAXESS initiative and the members of the EQUAL-IST project consortium, I thought it would be good to just very briefly introduce both the EQUAL-IST project and what is EURAXESS all about. So first, let's start with the EQUAL-IST project. So EQUAL-IST stands for Gender Equality Plans for Information Sciences and Technology Research Institutions. And this is the project funded by the European Commission within the Horizon 2020 framework program. The project started in June 2016 and will last up to the end of May 2019. So we are almost done with the project, and so we can tell you many things about the outcomes that we have achieved. Within the project, we have 6 research institutions from 6 different European universities. And all institutions come from the fields of information and communication technology or information sciences and technology. We have engineering departments on board, information systems departments, like the one that I come from. So we all are in the IT field. The reason for that, there is a reason behind that, because in the IT field, we have the phenomenon of underrepresentation of women at all levels and gender imbalance at all levels, and within the project we would like to tackle this challenge. So the project goal is to introduce structural changes at the participating institutions to enhance gender equality, diversity, and work-family balance by designing and implementing so-called tailored gender equality plans. So gender equality plans are policy planning documents which include activities aimed at promoting gender equality, diversity, and work-family balance. And these activities, they were tailored to each institution based on the specific challenges in these fields that they face. So we first identified the challenges, and then we identified activities to address these challenges, and now we implement these activities, and we will tell you and give you some examples during the webinar. So that's the project in a nutshell. The EURAXESS network, just switching to the other side, and I will just give a brief overview, and maybe my colleagues from EURAXESS will add something during their talks if I miss something. So EURAXESS Researchers in Motion is a pan-European initiative which is supported by the European Union and its member states. And at the core of EURAXESS is to support mobility of researchers within Europe and to Europe, and also support career development of researchers. The ultimate goal is to enhance scientific collaboration between Europe and the world. So as you see, promotion of gender equality is actually not the core business of EURAXESS, right? But EURAXESS strives to support and promote gender equality within its network, and today we will get some insights into that. So the webinar will basically have two main parts. So in the first part of the webinar, we will gain insights from the EURAXESS side. So we will get some information about the promotion of gender equality within EURAXESS network in general, and especially within the EURAXESS Top IV project and EURAXESS Top IV project. And in the second half of the webinar, we will gain insights into some activities which were implemented within the EQUAL-IST project, and each institution will give you one example and one kind of first-hand experience on their activity done within the project. So the agenda, you should be familiar with that. So we will start with the presentation by Professor Brigitte Ernst from the University of Liège in Belgium. And Brigitte will tell us about the Top IV project and its outcomes, focusing on the gender equality aspects. And afterwards, Professor Dimitris Thanopoulos will tell us about the Top IV project and how gender equality is being supported there. In the second half of the webinar, we will have presentations by the EQUAL-IST project partners, who will tell about their exemplary activities. And we will also have some discussion afterwards. So without any further details, I would like to give the virtual floor to Professor Brigitte Ernst from the University of Liège in Belgium. And Brigitte will tell us about promotion of gender equality at EURAXESS, focusing on the presentation, the outcomes of the Top IV project. So Brigitte, thank you very much for joining, and the virtual floor is yours.
I am not a professor. I am working in the research and development administration. Okay, and I am in charge of the EURAXESS initiative in my university since 2005, which is a long time already. The missions of EURAXESS, you told them, they increased over time. First, we were focusing on mobile researchers and the services we could give them. And then we moved to the researchers' environment to make sure that in every part of Europe, and maybe also outside Europe, researchers could find similar working conditions. And this is what is called the human resources strategy for researchers, EURAXESS rights, based on the Charter and Code. And recently we had a third sector, which is researchers' career development, and the aim is to help the researchers to find out the best place where they can use their talents. So now I will tell you a little bit about what we did in Top III. Top III is a project where all the network is involved. So all the EURAXESS staff throughout Europe and also in other states which are linked to Europe via research programs They are all involved. They have a national structure, and at the basic level, they have staff working and trying to assist the researchers. And together we decide on a program to improve and to increase the way we attend the needs of the researchers. And in top 3, which is therefore the third action plan for the EURAXESS network, we decided to work on the challenge of diversity and with a specific focus on gender equality. It is normal to take care of gender equality because this is the main discrimination. The female population being very numerous, it is certainly an important discrimination to focus on. And so we reflected with a group of 4 partners, Slovakia, Italy, Bulgaria and Belgium. We reflected about how we could make gender equality more relevant for the EURAXESS staff. And we identified 3 issues. In terms of mobility and international welcome services for mobile researchers, we should find tools that help the staff to reflect on how the services they deliver can be more gender sensitive and to develop family-friendly competencies. For the career development centers, helping the researchers to develop their talents, it is important to provide reference for trainings related to gender equality and diversity, both for the staff and for the researchers. And some examples of trainings, it's about leadership skills, mentoring researchers, and trying to make sure that we could develop flexible career trajectories. And then the third sector is the human resources strategy for researchers. It's there that gender action plan can find their place. The tools can help the university and research institutions to integrate gender equality and diversity in their action plans. So we developed a management guide, a gender and diversity management guide. It's in fact an inventory of 56 tools that we found in the internet, on the web, and they are about gender and diversity in research, and they are relevant for the 3 missions of EURAXESS that I just told you about. The guide was developed in the framework of the Top 3 project. It is available for online. It's open source. It includes a glossary of basic terms related to gender in research, the overview of the 56 tools, and then 3 sections. One, develop the actions focusing on the researcher, so what we can do for his or her career development. Then the actions focused on the institution, how we can provide tools to help designing an action plan to change the situation. And then actions focused on the social and cultural environment, which will be most useful for the services providers. This is the reference where you can find the diversity management guide. It is the open repository of my university, Université de Liège, but you can also find it in the EURAXESS extranet library. The first section is the actions focused on the institutions, and this will be maybe relevant for another discussion between the two projects, EQUAL-IST and Top 3, because we identified 3 charter and code principles who are relevant for gender. The first one is the principle of non-discrimination. The employers and the funders of researchers should not discriminate against researchers in any way. I would say that we think it is very important to promote an inclusive stand, that our aim is to make sure that no one is forgotten, that we develop, of course, gender sensitiveness, but also handicap sensitiveness, ethnic sensitiveness. All these can be very useful. The second principle is the principle on the working environment. That's to make sure that the working environment for the researchers is providing a good balance between work and private life. And this is important, of course, for women, but it is also important and more important for men researchers as well. And the third principle is on gender balance. This is very important to make sure that there is a good gender balance in all levels of the staff, also in the management and the senior management of the research center or the university. So this is, I think, most relevant for the EQUAL-IST project also. The management, diversity and gender management guides contains 56 fish, and each fish is only 1 page. So it's very easy to have a look at it because it's short. In each page you have the title, you have a short description of the tool, the relevance for EURAXESS, and the web link to get to the tool. So you don't need to read it from page 1 to page 56. When you want to do something to promote gender equality, then you have a look at the page 14, where all the overview of the fish is given, and you go directly to the fish you want. I give an example of two very general tools. The first one is the She Figures. It's a study that is ordered by the European Commission, and it gives information about the situation of women researchers in Europe over time. So these She Figures are published every 2-3 years. The last edition dates, I think, in 2015, and it is very useful reference to start with. The second fish talks about the gender equality index per country in the EU, and it is done by the Gender Observatory again, and also updated sometimes. I give other examples of important issues for the institution. You can find tools about how to make a gender audit, to stimulate gender awareness in your research institution, to find a good balance in decision-making structures, to ensure fair recruitment and promotion procedures, good working conditions, and a very important challenge for Top 4 will be how to assess a gender action plan. Then you have actions focused on the EURAXESS services to mobile researchers. So it's very important to to see how we can develop gender-sensitive services and develop family-friendly competencies. And together, we have put a series of questions that each EURAXESS services staff should ask themselves and try to see how they can improve the situation. I will not read this out. I will just take an example. The first thing is that the
Daniele,
staff...
Yes?
Sorry, I am maybe a bit too long. So I give you an example of a fiche that can be useful for a EURAXESS service staff. It is called the FESTA Online Handbook on Resistance to Gender Equality in Academia. And this handbook aims to present an understanding of resistance to change in academic institutions and give ways to deal with it. So the EURAXESS staff confronted with one of the problems, it can be a lack of resources, for example, to put up a new action, can have a look at this kind of resistance, lack of resources, and he will find examples, he or she will find an example of how this can happen in a research institution and ways to overcome this resistance. It is useful because it gives an explanation about resistance. It is a phenomenon that everyone who wants to change something in an institution will face, and how to deal with it. So it is very interesting for the EURAXESS staff. You can also find a lot of actions focused on the researcher. And there you can see several issues. The fiche 4, 5, and 6 will give you some very interesting tools to make people more conscious about the gender bias. The fiche 7 will help you to design a mentoring scheme for young women researchers. And you can also find a lot of information on how to deliver gender-sensitive training in fiche 9, how to include gender in your research topic. Fiche 10, 9 modules to help female junior scientists in career planning. Very practical tool. And fiche 11, who is designing a training on leadership for young women scientists. So that's it. I hope I made you curious about our diversity and gender management guide, and that you will have a look at it and find it useful in your work. Thank you very much.
Dear Brigitte, thank you very much for the very interesting presentation and for all your efforts to make it very clear to us. Please, Elena.
So thank you very much, Brigitte. It's very interesting. To the audience, feel free to post your questions in the chat. And while you are doing that, I have a question myself. So it's very great that you have done this collection of tools within this Gender and Diversity Management Guide. And I wanted to ask if you are aware about basically the popularity of specific tools from your guide. So if you maybe know which of these tools the partners from the EURAXESS network are using or implementing more often, or in general, so which of them they found more useful. Do you have any information or insights about that?
So I said, no, we don't have yet a lot of feedback about this. What I can tell you is that the tool was downloaded more than 250 times. So that means it was already looked upon, and I got a kind message from one university from the Netherlands who said they found it very interesting, but I think it is the biggest challenge with this. It is the challenge with all these EU projects, that they contain a lot of very interesting and relevant material, but it is too disseminated. So our ambition was to try to collect as much of information in a very short and accessible way for the people who need it in our network, in the EURAXESS staff. And we hope to help with this, but we think that the best way to make sure that there is a transfer of knowledge is by organizing trainings. So that's why we are organizing training for the full network with sometimes 200 participants gathering together, and also training for the national networks. And we think that this is the best way to stimulate the use of the tools. The next training will take place in Prague in May. And there we will offer the people who will be there, the staff from the EURAXESS network, to work with one tool targeting the researcher, one tool targeting the institution, so how to manage a gender action plan, and one tool designing also the EURAXESS services staff, how to make our services more sensitive to diversity.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's really important initiative, and it's really great for that you have collected all this huge knowledge, and I put the link to our chat to the guide so that our participants of the webinar can also have a close look at it. What Maria, it's also our project partner of the EQUAL-IST project. She's a kind of our internal consultant and internal evaluator. She also writes, thank you very much for interesting presentation. We will definitely go through the guide, and it could be included also in our EQUAL-IST online toolkit, which we have developed within our project, and you can also see the link to our toolkit. So I think it's great now, it's important now to disseminate the work that you have done, to disseminate the guide so that more people look at it and will find it useful. Here is also another question about applying for the training in May. So is it possible to still who can apply to this training? Is it still possible to apply for this training?
It is the way it goes is like this. Every 2 years, the EURAXESS network meets together. So it's a very big meeting with more than 200 people, and it is the national heads of the EURAXESS who are going to decide who is going to take part from their national network, EURAXESS network, you see. So, but it is the first step. There will be other trainings provided in the framework of the top 4. And I think Mr. Sanopoulos can tell you a little bit more about that when he presents the top 4 project. So the people who would like to take part have to send a message to their EURAXESS bridgehead organization in their country. And they will tell if it is still possible to take part or not. Because each country is allocated with a certain number of seats.
Brigitte, there's another question. Do you have the link to share on the training program? So if there's a link where the participants of our webinar could get further information about this upcoming training?
Yes, of course. To be aware of the EURAXESS activities, the best initiative to take is to become a member of the EURAXESS network by visiting the EURAXESS portal, seeing all the activities, and then taking contact with the EURAXESS bridgehead of the country where you are located, and the EURAXESS bridgehead will tell you how you can become a member, because of course there are some rights and duties of being a EURAXESS members, and you need to be aware of that.
Thank you very much, Brigitte. It was very insightful and very useful. And thank you very much. And now I would like to, so we had now insights from the EURAXESS Top IV project, which is now over. It has been completed. So we could see some results which have been achieved within this project. And now I would like to give the floor to Professor Dimitris Sanopoulos, who is the National Coordinator of the Greek EURAXESS Service Network. And Dimitris will tell us about the EURAXESS Top IV Project, which has just started, if I'm not mistaken, just a couple of months ago, and will probably give you more insights about the future of EURAXESS, and especially what is the upcoming trends in initiatives, what are planned initiatives in the area to promote gender equality. So Dimitris, many thanks for joining. The virtual floor is yours. Thank you.
So I would like to make a correction also. As Brigitte, I'm not a professor. I'm Dimitris Sanopoulos. I'm administrative staff of my organization, and I am the Bridgehead organization, which is the coordinator of the Greek EURAXESS Service Center, and also I am national contact point of Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions. One of my hats also, that's why I'm here, is that I am the coordinator of Top IV Project, which, as Brigitte said, started recently, 1st of September 2018, and unfortunately Brigitte had, of course, a lot of things to say because there are already results, but unfortunately for in our case it's still started, so I don't have a lot of things to present you regarding the specific topic of gender equality. Because it's too early yet to have results on it. So I'll make you a general presentation of Top IV to see the framework of this project, some general information about the project, and I will finish with the transparency regarding the expected results, but in a very generalized form regarding the gender equality and diversity in general. So, the Top IV has 40 bridgehead organizations. All the national networks are represented of the Pan-European EURAXESS network. It's a big program with more than 3 million euros budget and a duration of 3 years. It started 1st of September of last year and it's going to finish 31st of August 2021. And the packages include the project management and coordination. There is a work package which is dedicated to career development centers, which is the centers who will be able to provide interesting assistance to researchers to improve their career path. And I think it's one of the topics here is also to help the women researchers to embark a career path against any discriminations. And also there is a work package regarding the social integration initiatives, having tasks like this could be interesting, dual career services for the partners of mobile researchers, because many times the researcher is thinking to embark a mobility experience because of personal reasons, and he wants to conduct this mobility having together his or her companion. So dual career services also are providing some assistance to the companion, regardless if it is a woman or of men, of both genders. And also diversity is here also a task. There is a special provision for gender and multicultural issues, you know, especially for cases of refugees cases that these multicultural issues are sometimes very acute, and in this case we think again that the topic of gender issues plays a significant role. And engagement with industry is the next package. We try also to, regarding the gender issues, to formulate a mentality, a concept in the private sector to avoid discrimination in gender issues. And I'm very glad recently where I'm coordinator in another EURAXESS project for the Greek research environment regarding the career days, where we help young researchers to embark careers and to avoid the brain drain of young researchers because of the economical crisis. I was, as I say, very happy meeting in a small provincial town nearby the borders, where we organized an event with private sector. There were present all the industries with research department. In a big industry, the director of the research department was a PhD holder who was a woman, which was quite rare in Greece the last decades. So there is a progress in this topic, and this work package focuses in this term to make the EURAXESS members capable to provide such services in order to limitate the discrimination in gender issues in the private sector. This is one of these the activities of this package. Another work package is the capacity building, where Brigitte mentioned this. The main topic tasks in this package are regarding to the training, to satisfy the training needs of the European network and all the national networks. And here is a big list of training topics. One of the most important topics is to train the EURAXESS staff in order to be able to provide services regarding discrimination and gender issues. And another issue is network support, the other work package 6, network support and a comprehensive communication and cooperation strategy of EURAXESS. This is a project within a project. We call it in EURAXESS network call. So we disseminate some budget in each national network in order to organize better the internal training and to participate the members in the EURAXESS Pan-European training sessions. So this is an important work package as well. And there is also the EURAXESS Open to the World, and it concerns the EURAXESS outside of Europe and in third countries. There are antennas of EURAXESS all over the world, in all the continents. And in these terms, we are, with the help of these antennas, in contact with scientific diasporas of Europe living in countries like United States or Japan, China, India, etc., and or Latin America, and we try to establish bridges among European researchers and European researchers living in these countries, to inform them about the possibilities of career in Europe, and in general to have always a communication line with them, and to have them close to the European research area. And also we have our communication platform, we have the portals, and there is, we still improve the European, there is a Pan-European portal, and also there are antennas in each country, the national portals, where are specific information about each country. Somebody asked it before. Except of the bridgehead, information about each country could be found there. And general information about the EURAXESS as a whole initiative you can find in the European portal. I strongly recommend you. There are a lot of issues regarding gender issues. Brigitte mentioned about some tools. There is specific area in this portal regarding the existing tools for improving career development of researchers, and I strongly recommend you to visit it and to see the possibilities to have there. And also there is the future, and there is a package regarding the prediction of the future needs, and in order to be able to develop new services for the future and to be able to foresee the new needs and new demands of the networks in order to be better prepared in order to provide these services. This was the basic structure of top 4 in brief, and I will focus with this one, unfortunately, transparency. I don't have this detailed information as Brigitte presented to you, because she had all the results of top 3, but also in top 3 it was done so much that it is that there is only few left in order to do in top 4, and that's why we need in top 4 now to study these results and some other sources in order to see and how can we can exploit these results and be able to train and the EURAXESS staff all over Europe, or in order to be able to provide such services for gender issues, or or in general to integrate. We want to integrate the diversity management, how they can provide these services for to their clientele, to the people in their region, and that's why we intend to in top 4 we intend to formulate 2 groups. One, it will be we will have a holistic approach, as I said. 2 stakeholders. One stakeholder will be consisted by universities, and the other by members of the private sector, by industry. And we will see how can, with focus groups, we will see how can we formulate with experts some recommendations for our members of the network in order to be able to provide services in these 2 different sectors. And this is the main topic in top 4 regarding to the issue we discussed now, the diversity and gender issues. And that's my presentation. I'm very keen to reply in any question you want to tell me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dimitris. First, I wanted to say sorry to both you and to Brigitte that we promoted you to professors wrongly. Sorry for that. Thank you very much for your talk. And to our audience, please feel free to post your questions in the chat. I have a question myself. So I have noticed that I think it was work package number 4 that you have had there some tasks which are aimed at promoting work-family balance, like dual career for researchers. And I wanted to ask if you intend, or maybe you already have done it, to have a look at the guide which Brigitte was presenting, so the Gender and Diversity Management Guide, and the tools which were included in this guide, or maybe you have already done it, and maybe you could give us some information first if you would like to do it, and if yes, what tools did you find specifically useful for you to be used within the top 4 project to support work-family balance and other gender equality related initiatives? Thank you.
Well, as I stressed out before, we are not going to implement new tools. In top 3, there were produced a lot of tools, and what we need now is to study all these tools, how can be used for researchers, and then, as I explained in my presentation, we are going to use 2 focus groups, different focus groups, consisted by people, experts from industry and experts from the university, from the university sector. And with the assistance of these 2 groups, we are going to formulate recommendations for the members of EURAXESS. These kind of recommendations would be also very useful as a teaching material, and we are going to use them in training during top 4 in order to train the EURAXESS staff all over Europe to be able to provide more qualified services regarding the gender issues, and more specifically the career of the woman's career, because we strongly believe that half of our research population are women, and we must take advantage of this big part of population in order to enhance research in Europe. And that's why we will pay special attention to this thing. And also another objective is to train our people to provide better services, as I mentioned, in dual career issues, especially if the wife of a researcher is a scientist, and it's not the mobile research, but she's following her husband in order to secure for her a better career in the new country, in the new environment she comes. So this will be the main focus, to study the existing resources, what has been produced in top 3, but not only, we are going to study other resources, bibliographical or some policies, and then to formulate the recommendations which would be useful in order to train and to provide better services in our network. Thank you. Yes? Can you hear me?
Thank you very much, Dimitris. Thank you very much. Yes, we can hear you. Brigitte also wrote here that there is also a guide about dual career management, and it's available from EURAXESS extranet library, so may be useful for all the participants of the webinar. And also Brigitte wrote that we can also learn about gender bias from the Royal Society video, which is fish number 5 in the guide, and the quiz, which she writes is very cool, like full of fun, in fish number 6, and that you can also take the implicit association test developed by Harvard University in fish number 4. And also there was a question regarding the slides, and yes, we will share the slides and information with you. And also we have a link with further materials from Barbara, so you can also have a look there. Yeah, so thank you very much, Dimitris. I think there were no further questions. It was very insightful overview of the top 4 project. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now I will take the floor back, and would be good if I could share my slides again. So now we would turn to the second half of our webinar, and I hope you can in a moment see my slides. So before we move to short individual presentations about some on a more like operative and specific levels of what actually has been done within the EQUAL-IST projects, exemplary activities which have been implemented in our project, I would like to give a short introduction how the Charter and Code principles, which Brigitte has mentioned earlier, have been incorporated into the EQUAL-IST project. And then I will give the floor to the EQUAL-IST project partners. So I will not go into too much detail. I think you all know about the Charter and Code principles, which was the initiative of the European Commission, and it was heavily supported by EURAXESS initiative. So Charter and Code stands for European Charter for Researchers and Code of Conduct for the recruitment of researchers, and these two important documents, they specify various principles, in particular the roles, responsibilities, and entitlements of both researchers and their employers, so the research institutions, and also the set of principles and requirements that should be followed by employers and funders when appointing and recruiting researchers. And Charter has 31 principles and Code 9 principles, and Brigitte has already presented the most important Charter and Code principles that support gender equality, diversity, and work-family balance. And she already told you about non-discrimination, working conditions, and gender balance principles. And within the EQUAL-IST project, we also could identify 3 further relevant principles in the area of gender equality, which is about recruitment, so that employers need to facilitate access of disadvantaged groups and also underrepresented groups, and give them employment, and also to those researchers who return to Korea after the career break. The selection principle, that there should be diverse expertise and competences in the selection committees, so those committees which are responsible for recruitment of researchers, and also to ensure gender balance among them. And also the final principle is the variations in the chronological order in CVs, that the breaks or variations in the chronological order in CVs, for example, caused by parental leave, that they should not be penalized and should not be, that the researchers who made career breaks because of the family reasons should not be disadvantaged. So all these 6 principles, we have carefully studied them within the EQUAL-IST project, and we tried to acknowledge them within the gender equality plans which were developed within the EQUAL-IST project. And several institutions in participating in the EQUAL-IST project even had it as a dedicated activity to develop internal principles supporting gender equality, where these 6 principles were incorporated. And so they made internal code of conducts basically endorsing these 6 principles at the department level, because what I already said before, in the EQUAL-IST project we deal with the IT department, so it's on department level, not at the university level yet. And now I would like to introduce our partners who will give you maybe some more insights. Due to time reasons, we cannot give you a comprehensive overview of all the activities which we have implemented within the EQUAL-IST project. This will just take too long. I think it's like over 100 of activities. So we will just, for each institution, we'll present one specific activity, which hopefully will give you insights how gender equality and diversity was promoted within the EQUAL-IST project. And I will start with a partner from Portugal, School of Engineering at the University of Minho. Then we will move to Italy, and we will have an example from the Department of Engineering at the University of Modena and Reggio Emilia. From Southern Europe, we will move to Eastern Europe, and I will have an example from Lithuania, from Faculty of Economics at the Kaunas University of Technology, and then from the Ukraine, from the Information Systems Department at the Simon Kuznets Kharkiv National University of Economics. And then we'll move to Northern Europe, and there we'll have example from the Information System Science Unit at the University of Turku. And finally, I will also give an example from the Department of Information Systems at the University of Münster in Germany. So each presentation will be very short, and I suggest that we have a Q&A session after all presentations. So please post your questions in the chat box referring to what institution it refers to. So for example, you can just write the name of the country, and it would be clear to what partner your question refers to. So I will now give the floor to Isabel from the University of Minho, who will quickly tell about one specific activity that they have worked on within the project. Isabel, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you. First, I want to say that the information that I just heard is so important, and for sure I'll be downloading the documents. I will focus I'll focus staff, and I will focus particularly the issue of recruiting and evaluation. We did many actions. I see those two question points that should be 61 or 62 different actions at the University of Minho. So we addressed many issues. So here I will address the problem that for us is more difficult to see changes. I want to contextualize the issue. Portugal, in terms of recruitment for higher education institutions, there's no legislation or even recommendations for committees, recruitment committees and evaluation committees. So when we are talking about schools that employ mostly men, and where the full professors are mostly men, so we don't have, or we don't see gender equity in these committees. We have a National Committee for Citizenship and Gender Equality that is just starting all the situation in the higher education institutes. They have been working and addressing other social issues, but at this point they are already a good partner for us. So we are optimistic about changes that may still occur. In terms of the Minho situation, we see ad hoc decisions about the members of the committees. I mean, it depends on what recruitment process it is, where it is, how the president of that committee decides to who this president decides to include in this committee. So there's no systematic recommendations for all committees to address the gender equity condition. When we talk with our colleagues and these colleagues that are in these committees, usually when we talk about merit, hardly it is considered the many constraints in the career of women. Especially we see here and in this region that women still are the main responsible for children, housekeeping, older family members, and all this has impacts in how careers are developed. And what we found here at the beginning of the project was a complete lack of internal discussion on the challenges of gender equality at the university. But after almost 3 years, I think we, given what we had at the beginning, we had already very notorious victories that I call here victories in the sense that we, in these years, faced so many resistances and had continuously actions to overcome those resistances. And so many of our actions were focused the issue of awareness. So we internally had many meetings, many events where we promoted discussions about what should be seen as inequality in the career progression of men and women, because most of the time we heard that this progression was not being blocked. That if there were not more women, it's because the CVs were not as good as men at the moment of recruitment. So when we started to talk, even women thought that this is the problem and never had addressed why this is so. Now we also have women more aware and more empowered to make some decisions because of what kind of activities they accepted or they don't accept to do, because or how to direct their effort to perform activities and reach results that are important for their career management, and this was important. Also, we have more events where women talk about their experience and appear as role models for others, especially younger faculty, which is in this case what we are focusing. And then for us, it is very important the contacts we are establishing externally, namely with National Committee for Citizenship and Gender Equality, that is now focusing the higher education and the gender equality in this sector. And we believe we have a protocol that is almost signed, and we believe we will be able to see changes in terms of recruitment and evaluation policies of the university do this partnership and what we intend and plan to together. So I don't know if I exceeded my time, but this is what I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, Isabel. So if you have any questions, then post them in the chat and we will then address them after the presentation. And I would like to now give the floor to Claudia from University of Modena and Reggio Emilia, who will give an example from Italy. Claudia?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Elena. Hello to everybody. I'm Claudia Canali. I'm an associate professor at the Department of Engineering of the University of Modena and Reggio Emilia in Italy, and I'm leading the EQUAL-IST project for my university. So first of all, thank you also from my side to the previous speakers, because they were really, really interesting examples, tools, and experience. Our example I want to talk to you about briefly in our university is related to working conditions, in particular to work-life balance and flexible working hours. That is so important to support both women and men actually in critical phases of the career. So the motivation for our activity comes from the EQUAL-IST gender audit phase, because during this phase we did focus groups and we noted that the university staff members complained about a scarce knowledge of the rules and procedures regulating the opportunities to access work-life balance and flexible working condition in our institution. Let's say complain both in terms of visibility of the procedures that were not optimal and comprehension. So because procedures were very complex and it was not clear who was eligible for that service and which steps to take, which steps were required to ask for and access this opportunity. So the activity we implemented within the EQUAL-IST project to address this issue were actually at the level of the entire university, not only of our department. First of all, within an existing committee, named Committee for Unified Guarantees at the level of university, we created a dedicated working group named Work-Life Balance and Well-Being, with the specific goal to improve flexible working opportunities and raise awareness and increase visibility of the related procedures and information. So this group, first of all, collected and published on the website of the official committee of the university all the regulation and information about flexible working opportunity, in particular teleworking and smart working opportunities, to increase the visibility to all the staff. And another important activity is that this group is organizing each year a training event on topics related to work-life balance and well-being. We organized 2 events in 2017 and 2018 related to these topics. The events are dedicated to the university staff members. They foresee the presence of some external experts at the national level, raising awareness on the topic, but also internal experts, experts from the university, our university, explaining in detail the procedures and rules, the changes, the rules to follow to access the service, and clarifying doubts of the staff members about that. The events are also video recorded usually, so they can be also accessed online at the university website. So if I can suggest a recommendation to implement a similar activity in other institutions, one thing that we experienced as an issue is that especially non-academic staff members are not so flexible in their working hours, so they need the approval also of the boss to attend such an event during the normal working hours. So the recommendation is to envision the involvement of the Human Resource Office of the university. We did that. We involved the HR office, specifically its training division, asking them to certify these events as part of the official training offered by the university to the administrative and technical staff. So in this way, the training is officially recognized, meaning that the hours of attendance are recognized as working hours, and attending to the events gives some sort of official training credits. And this involvement was really extremely important to ensure high participation to the event. To conclude, in terms of sustainability, we can say that the dedicated working group will continue to stay in place and operate also after the end of the EQUAL-IST project. Hence, it will remain in charge of organizing each year a training event about work-life balance topics. And of course, it will continue to update regularly the information about existing updated opportunities and information on the website to increase the visibility. So this is the experience. I hope I didn't exceed too much the time, and thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much, Claudia. So that was an example from Italy, and now we move to Lithuania, and we will have an example from the Kaunas University of Technology. Daina, the floor is yours. Daina, unfortunately, we cannot hear you. So I see that you are muted now, so I don't know if you try to unmute your microphone. Okay, now we should actually hear you, but I don't hear you, unfortunately.
Good afternoon. Do you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you, Dina.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, somebody disconnected my microphone. Okay. I am representing Kaunas University of Technology, and today I would like to introduce 3 sustainable results of the GAP implementation that are related to structural changes. And basically, we'll deal with 3 EURAXESS principles, like namely to no discrimination, working conditions, and gender balance. The most important results, what I mentioned, are net mentoring network, career roadmap, and committee of gender equality and diversity. So more widely about one of the results, the committee established for the implementation of equality and diversity policy at Kaunas University of Technology, and the guidelines of the policy implementation based on these 3 EURAXESS principles at the university, and intended measures and procedure of their implementation. So requirements of occupational safety are only applied to women, aiming for presentation of their health with regard to the woman's psychological characteristics, specific work that can be performed only by the person of specific gender. The open environment is created. You see the screen of the environment, and where individual can send their information about the specific problems and to apply with different contributions on the problems. So each employee and student has a right to work and study in the environment that encourages respect to everyone's dignity. So every employee and student can report the case of the violation of equal opportunities or persecution in the electronic system, and as well as by email. So employees or students' report is considered as confidential information and will be discussed in the committee group. So working on that, we of course met some resistances, not only on that, but as well as on gender equality plan implementation and development. So the employees of non-academic staff were not very open while sharing their experience. They also did not provide a lot of constructive solutions for the problem solving. However, the information and points of view gained from them were valuable and important. Another challenge was the limited interest of participants, so we had to make much more motivation on that, and most of the times while they were asked to describe the situation in the Faculty of Informatics, they were demonstrating a level of resistance in revealing the true situation, and most of times answers to any question related with gender inequality were that it is not applicable in the Faculty of Informatics. That might be understood as a protective action, maybe. So success is that we could implement these results, and not only in faculty level, but in the institutional level as well. What we could recommend to other organizations planning to develop gender equality plans. So first of all, to analyze the best practices, because there are a lot of good examples as well as in our project as well, and to take a decision which is realistic to implement in the organization, and consider what is the most important, what will have the added value to any organization to be implemented gender equality plans. So that is our Lithuanian case. Thank you for attention.
Thank you very much, Dina. So now we will move to the Ukraine and have an example from Ghana. Thank you.
Hello to everybody.
My case is from Ukraine, from Kharkiv National University of Economics. First of all, I would like to note that Ukraine is not a member of the European Union, but in any case, we want to follow the principles and requirements that are presented in the European Charter for Researchers. And therefore, in the framework of the EQUAL-IST project, we have included in our gender equality plan an action that was aimed at raising awareness among academic staff and students about gender principles and requirements of the European Charter for Researchers. And also this action was aimed at ensuring support of certain provisions of Charter and Code by university staff. And in the frame of this action, we first of all disseminated the Charter and Code at the university community. And then we changed our internal code of professional ethics in order to include these certain principles of European Charter into our code, into our internal documents. Then all this was made in the frame of JEP implementation, and then in order to address the Charter and Code principles that support gender equality and work-life balance, we have included a number of relevant actions in our JEP, in our gender equality plan. On the slide, you can see an example of one of these actions aimed at improvement of work-life balance of our staff. In the frame of this action, we improved practice of scheduling. The problem of was at our university was the problem that university provides till now provides 2 shifts, and this significantly affects the work-life balance of academic staff who had small children. Public kindergartens usually work from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Public schools from 8 or 9 till 4 p.m. And the first shift at the university begins at 8:30 a.m. Classes on the second shift last until 7:30 p.m. and rarely even until 9 p.m. Thus, for those academic staff, for those teachers who had classes in the first shift, it was difficult to take children to kindergarten or to school. And for those who worked in the second shift, it was impossible to pick up their children from kindergarten or school. And this was the most burning issue for those families in which both husband and wife were academic staff of our university. In order to solve this problem, a university administration improved the procedure of scheduling and allowed academic staff having young children, having children with disabilities, large families, for pregnant women. We allowed it for all these categories of staff to have priority when drawing up the schedule of classes. And so we changed this procedure, and the provision of such a priority was recorded in internal normative documents of the university, and it in order to ensure to guarantee sustainability of this action. And summing up our experience of JEP implementation, I would like to say to note that of course all of our universities have had a lot of actions in the frame of JEP, and but such actions which I draw in my example are not very difficult to implement for the university, and but such actions are significantly can significantly increase employee loyalty, and they directly affect the improvement of working conditions and work-life balance. So I would suggest for all the universities to pay attention to such small but very effective steps. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ghana. So I think it's very nice recommendation that it's small but effective steps, because they also are those which can be sustainable, right? So that we go step by step and then try to change something, like, to really get some bigger improvement then. Thank you very much. So now we would like to have an example from Finland, from the University of Turku. So Oli or Brita, not sure who of you will present.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. We are already, our time is already 1:30 p.m. So do you hear me? Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, Oli, we can hear you very well.
Okay, thank you. Because I got no answer. So good afternoon, or to everybody. Yeah. And Rita unfortunately had to leave, so I'm presenting our presentation as agreed or informed before. Sorry, I have been flustered. Okay, and our focus is on the development discussions in ISS at Turku University, Turku University School of Economics, Information System Science, and this is something that we can produce some completely results, and as you can, everybody can read. So the main focus or main idea of the activity, general characteristics, is a career development discussion on gender equality, because you already know from before that the equality has been written in the Finnish law, and we have our university rules, and we have a non-discrimination board, and so on. Our needs may be somehow different from the needs of others, but we notice that the career development discussions and gender equality is good forum to improve the gender equality. And as written, the discussions carried out usually by the ISS subject head every year in February. So they are now going on. So we have no results yet to provide. But anyway, the goal is to measure the performance of the employee as well as his or her attitude towards the job content, salary requirements, or load rate, and so on and so on. Because these negotiations are confidential, so we cannot provide any personal results, but we can draw conclusions on a general level and somehow describe the atmosphere and to bring those say negative points and points to be corrected or to be improved, so into the daylight, and based on this information we can then improve our procedures and practices. And refinements already made to the activity during this EQUAL-IST project is to take up more actively the career possibilities young faculty members. It means that we try to recommend this ISS career for women more than before, because as you know that they are open for everyone. So there's no discrimination, but for several reasons the ladies have been, or women have not been so interested in this subject, but we can promote it, and then one sorry, one special point that has been taken into practice this year is to try to find whether those employees have been equally treated or not. We try to find out whether there has been some mistreatment or not. Hopefully not, and especially if they have experienced any sexual or gender equal related harassment at the work. So the subject head will get an overall picture of the gender equality in ISS. But as I mentioned already, these are ongoing, these discussions, and we have no general results yet. Compared to the situation before, there was no. Maybe there has been some, because I have been conducting these discussions, so there might have been questions about gender equal related harassments, maybe, and hopefully if somebody has felt that he or she has been unequally treated, but it has not been on the formal agenda, because the main subjects have been the career development and those things mentioned before. But now we will also focus on this equality and inequality. I think this is everything I could provide or produce so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Olli. So I see that we are running out of time, unfortunately, but still hope it's not a very big problem. I will try to be brief, and I would also think that we will have time for one question at least. So please post your questions in the chat. And I would like to conclude with an example from Germany, from the University of Münster. And here we have implemented, like, I don't think, over 60 different small activities within the EQUAL-IST project. And I would like to focus on one of them, which dealt with improvement in the recruitment process. And the idea was to raise awareness of about gender equality aspects among members of appointment committees for tenured positions. So for professorship positions in Germany, professorship positions are lifelong positions. So once you become a professor, no one can fire you, meaning that it is like, and it's also the top, basically, the pinnacle of your academic career. So it's extremely important to ensure fair and transparent appointment procedure where no one is discriminated. And because also, especially at the Department of Information Systems, we have almost no women. We have only one female professor actually at our department, and also at the other career levels, almost no women. It is especially important for us to make sure that the members of appointment committees are aware of it, and that no discrimination against women is there. So also within this activity, we wanted to sensitize members of appointment committees about the importance of ensuring equal treatment and of all candidates, and that it's important to avoid any form of bias and discrimination. So for that, what has been done is also like a very small, very like baby step, very small process, which we believe, because of its simplicity, can be sustainable. So what has happened? The idea is that each time we have a new appointment committee for tenured positions. So for each professorship position, we have a new appointment committee. So each time this committee is formed, the equal opportunities officer of the faculty, so we have equal opportunities officers at the university level and also at the faculty level. And at the faculty level, it's me, who is also equal opportunities officer, which was very handy within the project. So I, in my role of equal opportunities officer, sent to the members of appointment committees 2 emails informing about unconscious bias and about regulations, which is an area of gender equality in recruitment. So what I wanted to stress is that in Germany, there are regulations supporting gender equality and trying to hinder any form of bias and discrimination. And some of these regulations, so for example, those which are in the area of formation of the recruitment committees, so that there should be equal number of men and women in the appointment committees. So this rule has already been followed thoroughly at my faculty, but those other regulations which are in the law and which are also in the internal rules, I found out that they were not really clearly communicated to the members of appointment committees, and I found out that very few of them actually had a specific look at all these regulations in detail. That's why what I have done, I have sent 2 emails. The very first email, 2 emails to each appointment committee. The very first email is shortly before the first meeting of the newly formed appointment committee. I sent them an email with a link to a 3-minute video by Royal Society about unconscious bias. I think Brigitte has already mentioned this this video, and it's also in the guide that they have created. So it's basically, the goal was to raise awareness in a very gentle and non-intrusive way that, well, we all have unconscious bias, and it's not a bad thing, and it's just that it's important to, when we make important people-related decisions, and during this first meeting of the appointment committees, it is being decided who to invite, so who from the applicants to the position, who of them to invite for the interview. So in this specific process, it is important to not let unconscious bias lead us. So it's important to slow down decisions. It is important to look at the criteria for the position and at the competences of the candidates, and not look at any other factors like gender, age, race, or whatever. It was the first email, and it's like a very short one in a very non-intrusive way to say, okay, just be aware that we should not let our feelings and gut feelings rule us here. And the second email I sent to each appointment committee was shortly before the interview with the first candidate who was invited for an interview. And the idea was to summarize existing regulations in the area of gender equality, which are relevant and which need to be considered during interviews. So covering such aspects that the selection criteria need to be equally applied to all candidates, that comparable questions have to be given to all candidates, that questions about family plans, about the income and position of the partner, and so on, all these questions are not allowed. They are improper. And finally, if a candidate took a parental leave, this career break must not negatively affect the evaluation of the candidate. So like that, it's basically these 2 short emails. They still, in an indirect way, support all 6 Charter and Code principles supporting gender equality, and directly address or implement the non-discrimination and the variations in technological order of CV principles in the Charter and Code. So this activity has been implemented already in 5 appointment committees, and I can say when I just started being in my role of the Equal Opportunities Officer, the process was not like that at all. So although there are regulations which have to make the process clear and transparent, in my first appointment committees, it was actually a mess, and it was not transparent, and it was not fair often, and it led to big struggles I had. And after I started sending these emails, and also because I am present in all the committee meetings, I can say I really feel the difference, that people really take care that everything is fair, that everything is consistent and transparent. That was like my short experience of what has been done at the University of Münster. And now I would like to ask if you have any questions, and open the floor to questions. And if I see it correct, so there was a question, there was a note from Brigitte that the EURAXESS Top IV Project is going to organize several trainings at international, regional, and national levels. So if you want to know more, get in touch with the EURAXESS bridgehead organization in your country, and she provides also the link to the contact details and EURAXESS portal. So I guess there are no questions, and I see that we are running out of time already. So I would like to quickly conclude that within the EQUAL-IST project, it's very important to ensure the sustainability of the initiated actions, because at the moment we receive funding from the European Commission to initiate and implement all these important activities, but crucial it is to ensure that these activities will not stop once the EQUAL-IST project is over. And that's why together we all currently work on the development of sustainability plans. So each institution participating in the project works on an own sustainability plan. So how to ensure that those activities that were initiated within the project would actually sustain. And the sustainability plans include these activities and also the implementation timeline for them, who will be responsible for the implementation, what resources will be required, and also how we will evaluate the implementation in the future. And the idea is that the sustainability plans would be approved by decision makers at the institutions and then implemented at the end of the project. And I think that was it from my side. I also wanted to ask if Marisa Giuliano from the University of Venice, because she is now working on the project sustainability and replication report, if she would like to add quickly just a couple of words about sustainability recommendations for us and your work. Maria, if you would like to add something quickly.
Yes, can you hear me? Yes, thank you, Elena. I think you really grasped and summarized very well what we aimed at doing. We want the EQUAL-IST gender equality plans to be sustainable. So each partner is now delivering and also getting the approval from their highest management structures for sustainability plans with a 3 years time frame. And I am drawing on those plans to prepare deliverable 5.5 of our project, which is the sustainability and replication report. So we will create a set of recommendations that we would like to be multiplied possibly and used by other research institutions across Europe, prevailingly within the ICT, IST fields, disciplines, but not necessarily only, to really be able to incorporate measures within the existing services, machineries and regulations at each university in a sustainable way. And we are looking at sustainability from really a multidimensional perspective, including the structures which will be accountable for continuing gender equality activities, the resources and financial planning, the gender knowledge and expertise needed, and the consensus and visibility given to the actions. So take a look at our website, because we will share such sustainability and recommendations report soon, in a couple of months from now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. So I see that Brigitte also sent a link to another video about recruitment procedures. Thank you very much, Brigitte. She also writes, congratulations and courage, every small step counts. Thank you very much. So yeah, we also believe that every small step counts, and we are trying to make changes in one of the most conservative structures, which is universities. So we hope that it will be will make a difference, especially in the long term, and with sustainability efforts which we are currently doing, we are hopeful that it will be the case. So as there are no further questions and as we are run out of time, I would like to Thank you so much for your participation, for your attention. We will share the materials with you, and I wish you all have a nice day, and we can keep in touch. We'll be happy to keep in touch with you. Thank you, and bye-bye.